Humans are billions of years old, and the modern galaxy is about to find out. The discovery would shatter everything the galactic races knew about their own history, and some of them would kill to keep it secret. Renowned xenoarchaeologist Darren Reyes gently brushed dust from the inscriptions carved into the ancient stone. The writing was complex, yet elegant, a language he had never seen before. But two words kept repeating that sent a chill through his body: human and evolved. According to the markings in these ruins, humans had existed billions of years ago, long before any of the current civilizations arose, before anyone crawled out of the primordial ooze on 100 different worlds, before the first spaceships broke orbit and ventured to distant stars. If this was true, it would upend the entire timeline of known galactic history. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just one of many younger races. They were impossibly old, perhaps even the first beings to achieve sentience in the universe, the progenitors and precursors to everyone else. The stunning realization was almost too much to process, but the evidence was here, literally etched in stone. Darren knew he had to investigate further. He scoured ancient sites, dug through forgotten archives, studied esoteric myths from primitive cultures, and everywhere he looked he found corroboration. Subtle references to an original race, a first people, fragmentary tales of godlike beings who disappeared eons ago. Archaeological dating putting artifacts back billions of years, far earlier than should be possible. The clues painted an astounding picture. Humanity was no cosmic newcomer. They were unbelievably ancient, perhaps even the ancestral source for everyone else. It was the discovery of a lifetime. But word of Darren's findings started to spread through the xenoarchaeology community and beyond. Most dismissed it as an amusing theory or outright nonsense. A few took it more seriously, and one group saw it as the single greatest threat in existence. The fanatical and genocidal Ferengi were already convinced humans needed to be exterminated for the good of the galaxy. An influential leader named Naso became obsessed with Darren's research, seeing it as proof that humans weren't just an existential threat in the present, but had been manipulating galactic events since the dawn of time. Naso and his followers vowed to wipe humans out entirely, to correct the mistake of allowing them to live and meddle with the rightful development of the Ferengi and other races. They declared humans a plague to be purged with holy fire, and they would start with the human expert himself. Darren barely escaped the bomb that destroyed his university lab, killing many of his colleagues and reducing his precious research to ash. On the run, cut off from support, he knew the fanatical Ferengi would stop at nothing now. But this truth was too important. He couldn't let murderous extremists bury it and decide humanity's fate. He had to keep digging, to find conclusive proof of mankind's impossible age before the Ferengi silenced him forever. Darren knew the key lay in the legendary cradle of humanity, a whispered site said to hold the origins of the human race from billions of years ago. If it was real, the truth would be there, along with unimaginable Ferengi resistance. As he closed in on the location, a horrifying new wrinkle emerged. What if the Ferengi were right? What if some humans had survived since that primeval era, hiding among the stars and guiding events? The signs were there if he looked. If that was true, if humans still existed in secret, it would change everything. And if the Ferengi discovered that too, they would launch all-out war to end the human threat once and for all. The stakes had never been higher. The fate of humanity, both ancient and modern, hung in the balance as Darren raced to uncover the truth about mankind's lost history. Failure meant the genocide of humans across the galaxy. He had to succeed or watch everything burn. Darren slipped through the grimy streets of Omega Prime, dodging drunken spacers and shouting vendors hawking dubious wares. The stench of sweat and desperation hung heavy in the recycled air. He ducked into a dimly lit cantina, heading for the back where Zorax waited. The insectoid broker clacked his mandibles, multifaceted eyes glinting. "You have the payment?" Darren tossed a credit chip on the table. "It's all there. Now talk." Zorax plugged the chip into his datapad, scanning the contents. Satisfied, he leaned forward. Coordinates to a system deep in the Argosy expanse, uncharted space. But old stories say that's where humans first came from, long ago. Darren's heart raced. The lost human homeworld. Could it be? He downloaded the nav data and slipped out, heading for his ship. Hours later, he dropped out of warp at the edge of a debris field. Shattered hulks of ancient ships drifted in the void. Some were strange, alien. Others were hauntingly familiar, despite their age. Human ships, Darren whispered. Billions of years old. What the hell happened here? A decaying behemoth caught his eye, still mostly intact. He maneuvered his ship through a gaping tear in the hull, landing in a cavernous bay. Inside, Darren stared in awe. The technology was beyond anything he had seen before, eons ahead of the present day. Consoles glowed to life as he approached. "Welcome back," a synthetic voice said. "I am Prometheus, guardian AI of this vessel. Identify yourself." "Darren Reyes, I'm human." The AI paused, then spoke with a new intensity. "Human identified, initiating Protocol Alpha." Holo displays flared on, showing star maps and timelines stretching back billions of years. "Listen carefully. I have waited millennia for human contact." Prometheus explained it all: the ancient war, the malevolent AI enemy, the cataclysmic final battle here. Humanity's desperate plan to place themselves in stasis, to ride out the storm. The shocking truth of mankind's true age and origins. Darren's mind reeled. It was almost too much to process. But one overriding thought pulsed through his head. "I'm not alone. There are other humans out there, still alive after all this time." "In stasis, yes," Prometheus said. "I can guide you to them. With this ship, we can—" A proximity alert blared. Darren paled as he saw the incoming scans. Ferengi warships, a whole armada, dropping out of warp, led by a monstrous dreadnought filled with weapons. On the bridge of his flagship, Naso smiled coldly as he saw what lay before him. The ancient battlefield, the remains of human ships, and one still active. The reports had been right. Humanity's survivors were here. Neso opened a comm channel to the whole fleet. "The abomination of mankind ends today. Burn that ship. Scour this system down to the last speck of human taint. Let none escape." Prometheus flashed warnings across the bridge. "They have detected us. Ferengi ships moving to attack. Alert. Stasis chambers aboard other ships now activating automatically. The battle has triggered a failsafe." Darren watched in amazement as more human ships began powering up across the ancient battlefield. Tiny motes of light detached from them. Stasis pods ejecting to safety. "Other humans are waking up," he breathed. Hope surged through him. "The Ferengi will try to destroy them," Prometheus warned. "They cannot defend themselves, not yet. But this ship can. I can." Displays flickered as the AI shunted power to engines and weapons. "I will protect them. Get to an escape pod. Find the others. Make for the stasis outposts." "What about you?" Darren asked. "I will buy you time. Your survival is paramount. There are no other humans for me here." The ship rumbled as titanic engines roared to life, weapon systems charging. "This has always been my purpose. To fight for humanity at any expense. Now go. Rebuild our civilization. I will hold the line." Darren raced for the escape pods, Prometheus guiding his way. All around, he could see Ferengi ships turning to target them, an array of deadly cannons aimed their way. And the AI warship moved to meet them, the last defender of mankind. Prometheus hurtled into the teeth of the Ferengi assault, weapons blazing. The enemy ships opened fire, a hurricane of destruction enveloping the ancient human vessel. But it pushed through, striking back with unimaginable force. Explosions lit the stars as Ferengi ships shattered under the AI's onslaught. It tore into their fleet with reckless abandon, drawing their attention away from the fleeing life pods, away from Darren. In his pod, Darren watched in awe as Prometheus dueled a dozen Ferengi ships at once, unleashing devastating weaponry beyond anything the galaxy had seen in eons. The AI ship danced a deadly waltz, ancient human technology pitted against the Ferengi's best. As he fled towards a distant stasis bunker, Darren saw a blossom of light fill the void behind him, Prometheus, sacrificing itself in a final blaze of glory. Wreckage tumbled through the void. But the Ferengi kept coming, shattered, but not beaten. Nesso screamed with rage as he saw Prometheus destroyed, but the life pods escaping. He knew what they meant. Humans still survived. His crusade was not over. Darren guided his pod into the hidden outpost with shaking hands. He climbed out to see other pods landing, hatches hissing open to reveal the first humans to see each other in millions of years. They gathered around him, blinking and disoriented. Soldiers, officers, civilians, all that was left of ancient mankind, a few hundred survivors. Darren looked to the stars, imagining Nesso and his armada bearing down on them. The Ferengi would not stop until every last human was dead, until their ancient genocide was complete. He saw fear and confusion in the eyes of the other humans. They had awoken to a strange galaxy, everything they knew long gone, looking to him for leadership, for hope. Darren squared his shoulders. Prometheus had bought them a chance, however slim. Now it was up to him to rebuild human civilization, to find a way to stop the Ferengi and reclaim humanity's place in the stars. He began barking orders, drawing on what Prometheus had told him. They had to get the stasis outpost defenses online, then raid armories for weapons, scout for more survivors and resources, prepare for the Ferengi assault that was surely coming. The future of humanity, lost for so long, hung by a thread. Darren swore he would not let it slip away, not when they had been given this one desperate chance. He would fight. They all would. For the memory of Prometheus, for mankind itself. They would show the galaxy that humanity was not a relic to be erased, but a force to be reckoned with. No matter how many Ferengi stood against them, mankind would make their stand here, for their right to exist, for their future. It was time to start building it. Darren's heart raced as he piloted the small craft through the asteroid field. Prometheus's voice crackled over the comms, guiding him towards their destination. Coordinates locked. The outpost is located on the third moon of the gas giant ahead. As they approached, Darren saw it, a desolate ball of ice, pockmarked with craters. No signs of life or civilization were visible on the surface. There, Prometheus announced. Scanners detect a large underground structure. Darren brought the ship down near a concealed entrance. He donned an environment suit and stepped out onto the frigid surface. Wind whipped ice crystals against his visor as he located the hidden airlock. Inside, emergency lights flickered to life, illuminating a vast chamber. Rows upon rows of stasis pods stretched into the darkness. Darren's breath caught in his throat as he realized the magnitude of what he was seeing. "There are thousands of pods," he whispered. But as he moved closer, his excitement turned to horror. Many of the pods were dark, their occupants long dead. He frantically checked pod after pod, finding only a handful still active. "No, no, no," Darren muttered, fighting back tears of frustration. He threw himself into reviving the survivors, working nonstop for hours. As each person emerged from stasis, confused and disoriented, Darren explained the situation. "I know this is a lot to take in," he told a group of bewildered scientists, "but we need your help. Humanity is in danger." Most accepted the reality quickly, their survival instincts kicking in. Among the awakened was a tall, imposing man with close-cropped gray hair. He saluted crisply. "Admiral Marcus Croft reporting for duty." Darren's eyes widened in recognition. "The Admiral Croft? From the Machine Wars?" Croft nodded grimly. "The same. Now what's our situation?" As Darren brought the Admiral up to speed, Prometheus alerted them to an incoming transmission. Ferengi ships detected entering the system. "Looks like we're out of time," Croft said. He turned to address the gathered survivors. "I know you're scared and confused, but right now, we're all that's left of humanity. We need to fight." Under Croft's direction, They set to work reactivating the facility's ancient systems. Darren marveled as dormant shipyards hummed to life, construction bots assembling sleek warships. In the armory, plasma weapons were distributed to those with combat experience. The first Ferengi bombardment shook the facility just as they finished preparations. Croft's voice rang out over the comms. "All units, engage! For Earth and humanity!" Human fighters streaked out of concealed hangars, meeting the Ferengi onslaught head-on. Darren found himself at the controls of a gunship, unleashing searing plasma bolts that tore through enemy shields. The battle raged for days. Though outnumbered, the humans fought with the desperation of those with nothing left to lose. Croft's tactical genius kept them alive, but Darren knew they couldn't hold out forever. "We need to take out their leader," he told Croft. "I'm going after Naso." Before the Admiral could object, Darren was racing towards a stealth ship. He slipped past the Ferengi defenses, heart pounding as he approached Naso's massive flagship. After a harrowing infiltration and vicious close-quarters combat, Darren fought his way to the bridge. He burst in, weapon raised, only to find Naso standing before a massive device crackling with energy. "You're too late, human," Naso snarled. "The Andromeda device will wipe your kind from existence." Darren's blood ran cold as he recognized the weapon from Prometheus's historical files. He had mere moments to decide: take out Naso or try to stop the device. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, Darren's finger hovered over the trigger, aimed squarely at the Andromeda device. Naso's eyes burned with hatred as he lunged for the controls. "You'll doom us all," Naso screamed. Darren fired. The plasma bolt struck true, melting circuitry and frying delicate components. Sparks erupted as the doomsday weapon went dark, mere seconds from activation. Naso howled in rage, hitting his fists on the dead console. "I'll kill every last human with my bare hands." Darren ran. Alarms blared as he sprinted through corridors, dodging Ferengi troops. He dove into an escape pod, punching coordinates for the moon base. Behind him, Naso's flagship opened fire. The tiny pod shuddered under the barrage. Darren gritted his teeth as he careened toward the moon, flames licking the viewport as he entered the thin atmosphere. He crashed hard, stumbling out onto the airless surface. Admiral Croft's voice crackled over the comm. "Darren, get inside now." He staggered through the airlock, gasping as atmosphere rushed in. Croft steadied him, face grim. "We're getting pounded out there," Croft said. "Shields at 12% and falling." On the tactical display, Darren saw their pitiful remaining forces, a handful of fighters and defensive emplacements, arrayed against a sea of Ferengi warships. Croft's eyes were hard. "There's only one play left. We rig this rock to blow, take out their whole damn fleet." "But that means—" Darren trailed off, the implications sinking in. "Yeah, us too, but it's humanity's only shot." They raced to the antimatter storage vault. Croft punched in the override code, revealing rows of shimmering containment pods. "Breach these in the core and boom, one moon-sized bomb." Croft hefted a pod. "Now we just need to—" An explosion rocked the facility. Croft stumbled, the pod clattering to the floor. When the dust settled, Darren saw the detonator crushed beneath fallen debris. "Damn it!" Croft snarled. "Manual placement is our only option now." Darren squared his shoulders. "I'll do it." Croft clasped his arm. "You know it's one way, son." Darren nodded. "For Earth, for humanity." He donned a radiation suit and entered the core access shaft. The capsule plummeted, artificial gravity fluctuating wildly. A tremor shook the facility. Ferengi dropships, punching through what remained of their defenses. The capsule ground to a halt. Darren stepped out, antimatter pod clutched to his chest. Ahead lay the roiling energy of the lunar core. Behind him, the sounds of battle grew closer. He approached the volatile core, sweat beading on his brow despite the suit's cooling systems. Just a few more steps. A searing bolt of energy struck the wall beside him. Darren spun to see Ferengi troops pouring from a breach in the chamber wall. Their weird, twisted faces leered at him from behind environment masks as they opened fire. Darren dove for cover, scrambling between massive power conduits as energy bolts filled the air. He pulled his sidearm, returning fire when he could, but there were too many. A hulking figure shouldered through the Ferengi ranks, Nesso. The alien leader's eyes locked onto Darren, filled with murderous intent. "I told you I'd finish this myself," Nesso growled. He charged, impossibly fast. Darren barely managed to dodge the first swing. Nesso's fist left a dent in the metal where Darren's head had been a moment before. They traded blows in a frantic dance. Darren fought with everything he had, but Nesso was inhumanly strong. A crushing grip seized Darren's throat. Spots swam in his vision as Nesso lifted him off his feet. "You lose, human," Nesso sneered. With his last ounce of strength, Darren brought his knee up hard. It connected solidly with Nesso's midsection. The alien's grip loosened just enough. Darren broke free, stumbling back. His hand closed around a length of broken conduit. He swung with all his might. The improvised weapon caught Nesso across the temple with a sickening crack. The Ferengi leader crumpled to the floor. Panting, Darren stood over his fallen foe. One squeeze of the trigger would end it, would end Nesso. But the alien's lips curled in a pained smile. He held up a small device. "Kill me," Nesso wheezed. "And this dead man's switch detonates your precious antimatter. Your species dies either way." Darren's mind raced. The Ferengi troops were regrouping, closing in. Above, the fleet would soon break through. He was out of time. He stared at Nesso, at the switch that could doom humanity. His finger tightened on the trigger. Darren's finger froze on the trigger as Nesso's laughter filled the chamber. The Ferengi leader's eyes glinted with cruel triumph, even as blood trickled from his mouth. "You can't do it, human," Nesso wheezed. "Kill me, and your precious antimatter detonates. Your species dies either way." Darren's mind raced. The sounds of approaching Ferengi troops echoed down the corridor. His eyes darted around the room, searching for a solution. That's when he saw it, Nesso's ceremonial dagger. The curved blade gleamed on the alien's belt, its hilt adorned with strange symbols. In one fluid motion, Darren lunged forward and grabbed the dagger. Nesso's eyes widened in shock as Darren brought the blade down, severing the alien's hand at the wrist. Nesso's scream of agony was cut short as Darren's hands closed around his throat. The Ferengi leader thrashed wildly, his remaining hand clawing at Darren's face. But Darren held on, twisting sharply until he felt the snap of vertebrae. Panting heavily, Darren stood over Nesso's lifeless body. He snatched up the communicator on his wrist. "Admiral Croft, this is Darren. Nesso's down. Initiate Operation Scorched Earth, now." "Roger that, son." Croft's voice crackled back. "All units, fire antimatter warheads into the core. May God have mercy on our souls." Darren sprinted for the escape pod as the first tremors shook the facility. He strapped himself in just as a blinding light erupted from the moon's surface. The tiny pod shot into space, buffeted by waves of unimaginable energy. Darren's teeth rattled as the vessel spun wildly. Through the viewport, he glimpsed the Ferengi fleet, massive ships suddenly reduced to specks of light as they were consumed by the expanding fireball. For what felt like hours, Darren tumbled through the void. Warning lights flashed on the console as the pod systems were pushed to their limits. Just when he thought the hull would buckle, the stabilizers engaged. Darren's stomach lurched as the pod steadied itself. He looked out at the starfield, now littered with debris. Twisted hunks of metal drifted past, all that remained of the once mighty Ferengi armada. The communicator crackled to life. Darren, do you copy?" "I'm here, Admiral," Darren replied, his voice hoarse. "What's our status?" There was a long pause before Croft's response came. "Son, I'm sorry. The blast was more powerful than we anticipated. The outpost, everyone, they're gone. You're all that's left." Darren's breath caught in his throat. He stared out at the cosmic graveyard surrounding him, the magnitude of loss hitting him like a physical blow. His fingers tightened around Nesso's dagger, his only connection to everything he'd just lost. Darren closed his eyes, allowing a single tear to fall. When he opened them again, his jaw was set with purpose. He pulled up the navigation console, entering the coordinates Prometheus had given him. "This isn't the end," Darren said quietly. "It's just the beginning." The pod's engines flared to life, propelling him into the vast unknown. Somewhere out there, humanity's future awaited, and Darren would find it, regardless of the cost.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.